the air, the Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to WSTU 1450, Martin County's Heritage Station. I'm your host today, John, and I'm here with Dexter and Mr. Frank.
Hey, how you doing, Dexter?
Good, how are you?
John?
Yeah, we're not alone this week.
Yeah. It's good to see everybody's. It's Testosterone Thursday, right? So all the guys are in the house. So, and Nono is still out.
She is preparing for West Side Story.
Yeah.
Oh, her drama stuff, right?
Mm-hmm. Drama.
There's always drama.
Oh my gosh. And Ben's out doing a gig, I think, right?
Yeah, so Ben is performing at the Barn Theater, which is right here in Stewart.
Yes.
It's a show called Rent.
Yes. Oh, I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good play.
And they had their, kind of like you have movie previews.
Mm-hmm.
They had their show preview for friends and family to see it one day early.
Right.
And
that kind of helps them work out the bugs. And,
yeah, because there's less pressure.
Right.
You know, you don't have to be perfect. And these tickets, I'm not sure if these were sold tickets, but you can't buy them. You have to be invited to go. And they said it went very well.
Well, great. That's always good.
Yeah. I'm going to go on Sunday with some friends. They're going to go and see the show.
Good. All right. I'll expect a full report next week.
Oh my. Right. Okay.
Very, very good. So, okay, what do we got in the news?
Dexter, do you want to cover anything space related or anything of interest to yourself? Or
I haven't seen much news lately besides the Webb telescope.
James Webb. Mm-hmm. It's making its final alignments within the coming months.
That's correct. And it still hasn't made it all the way to L2 yet.
No, it hasn't.
Is L2 where it's going to be revolving or where it's going to be orbiting?
Yes, it's going to live in L2, and that is the Lagrange point. And so L2 is just like it's like a perfect location. The pull on the Earth, the pull of the sun, the pull of the moon are all equalized at this one point, so that it's going to take very little fuel for it to stay in a fixed position. So that's kind of neat.
It'll be interesting. And I believe on the NASA website, you can see how far along it is on its way to it too.
That's correct. Yes. They have
all the statistics of like how fast it's going, its velocity and all that.
Right. And if you want to ever watch an origami thing unfold, when you go to that NASA website, they actually have a animation of how the unfurling took place. It's quite an amazing technological feat. It was probably the most sophisticated ever launched. So there was over 340 points of potential game-ending failure, and they navigated past all of them. So
yeah, it's been like 2 decades worth of work. So
yeah, almost 3.
Almost 3
on this one telescope.
Because I mean, you have to. The stuff that was on the drawing board.
Yeah, then we got to the later parts, and it got dropped, and all of that.
Right. So if you hadn't listened to an earlier episode, what happened was as they were mating it, I believe, on the Ariane 5 rocket, one of the retaining latches released prematurely, and it jostled it. And so they had to
do a full inspection for like a week.
Yeah, well, and because all their systems, all the computers and all the working components, actually they had a tethered with the computer here in the U.S. and they could actually monitor the satellite, even the telescope, even though it was, in the position of being finalized into the fairing. They hadn't been fully closed out yet, so they could actually examine it and look at everything, and so they took a lot of detailed test data points, and they said, yeah, okay, I think we're good. What they had done prior to all this in the earlier development of the vehicle, they actually ran it through several vibration tests. So this didn't exceed what it was already exposed to. And those vibration tests are intended to simulate what the vibration would be on liftoff, just the rocket
Mm.
movement itself. So there's a fair amount of that going on. So anyways, it's all good.
Yeah, it is all good. I guess we should talk a little bit about COVID and it in general in other places. So
Okay.
this mainly pertains to Quebec. What I'm going to be talking about is if you're 15 years of age or older, you could be taxed. I believe it was some $600 to $1,800. And after that was after 5 days, you still hold your position in your job, but your salary gets cut. And within like the first, because this was about 8 hours ago.
What is this tax on exactly?
Being unvaccinated.
Being
Okay.
non-compliant.
Yeah, so I guess that would be the correct terminology.
Yes.
And after, I've lost my train of thought.
Oh.
After 24 hours, this is 24 hours later. And 5 days later, you would hold your position, but you'd lose your salary.
Okay. Nice. And
Yeah.
this is
And then
in
if you-
Quebec. This is in
Yes.
Canada.
And then if
Yeah.
you get vaccinated, it opposite returns. Interesting stuff.
So
Any thoughts?
Yeah, they have
well, I'm
different
glad I'm not
laws.
French Canadian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have different laws. You can't do that here, but you can.
Right.
You know,
Yes, exactly right. SCOTUS came down just before we came to air, and they made the announcement that they were going to reject the plan that the administration had with regards to using OSHA to mandate vaccinations as part of the. It's not an American thing. So you can recommend it, you can suggest it, you could strongly suggest it, but as far as I can tell, we're still a free country. People still have the freedom to choose, and we hope they choose wisely. But they still, it is people's freedom to smoke, to drink, to take a vaccine or not. That's your choice.
Okay. And this is kind of relating more to older news, but newer news.
All right.
So you guys know about the Queen and all, right?
I've heard of her.
Yes, the Queen. I even saw her on
Queen Mum.
Yes, the Queen Mum. Okay. Anyways, you know how she can declare titles and such.
Yes,
Correct.
she can also remove
Duke
titles.
and
Yes, she can also remove titles. So what happened, I believe, in the last 24-ish hours.
Prince
And
Andrew, right?
Yes, is Prince Andrew. And as the time I'm reading it, it says 22 minutes ago, and this is by the BBC. So
Right.
fairly updated news.
Right.
So what happened was Queen Elizabeth revoked Prince's titles and
All his military
all
honors.
his medical titles and all his affiliations to charities and such. Do you guys remember why?
Yes.
did he leave the
It
royal
was-
family?
No, it was a sex scandal.
It was a sex scandal. Okay, and this was more pertaining in recent times to the Jeffrey Epstein case
Correct.
because give me a sec. Miss Guffrey, I believe is how you pronounce her name.
Yes.
Miss
Close enough.
Guffrey.
Yeah.
Or close, I
Yes.
guess, I
Mhm.
presume. What happened was she was alleging that she was trafficked when she was 17 years of age by Mr. Epstein through other men's of power. And what happened was during the Jeffrey Epstein case, there was a signed document that was essentially she cannot go after anybody who is involved in the court trial. And what happened in, like, I believe the last 2-3 months, they were petitioning to be able to try Prince Andrew over it. But Prince Andrew was negating that, saying she signed this and I was a part of that committee.
The non-disclosure.
Non-disclosure agreement. And that was overturned, I believe, in like the last day.
All right.
And so
getting-
essentially,
It's getting a bit of a sticky wicket, as they would say.
I don't know.
On the other side of the pond.
I mean, on one hand, he's probably going to get tried, but on the other hand, will he be able to escape?
I don't think he'll
Get
I don't
tried?
know.
I mean, he was the prince, so they had a lot of
Right.
power.
I don't know. I think the revocation of his titles might be all that is going to ultimately happen.
Mm.
I think that he soiled the name, so it's just that's kind of where they're at.
Oh no, it was an interesting situation.
Yeah, I don't know how far that'll go. I don't see that there's that much of a thirst to, because it's not like he's reaching for more political or other power.
I mean, it's essentially taken from it and all disposed.
Right. So, yeah.
On other COVID news, we had the U.S. Supreme Court blocking Mr. Biden's workplace vaccine mandate, which was essentially mandating masks and such in workplace environments.
Right.
Now, they essentially blocked that and all. But what it didn't block was like healthcare facilities, and essentially they would still have to wear masks via this mandate.
Right.
Like in
Healthcare
a hospital.
workers.
Yes.
Right.
Good.
Right.
And other stuff. Okay. I'm going to say a term, and I'm pretty sure Mr. Frank will know it, so I'm going to ask Dexter. Sedition.
Ah, yes.
What is this in talking about?
Government.
Sedition.
Government.
Yes.
A little
I know where
guessing
where
game.
you're going with that.
Sedition.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even think I mentioned it.
No, you don't have
Sedition.
to.
I don't think I know what that word means. You gotta-
Okay.
Hey,
So
Google it.
okay.
gotta
So
help
we're
me out
going
there
to
a
sit
little bit.
around with Google.
Yeah.
So I'll just wait for Dexter to find it
All right.
and what this is. So what this
dun.
is
So we
in
got sedition. Conduct or speech inciting people to rebel against the authority of a state or monarch.
Correct.
So there was some
think recent times.
very, very vocal people.
Right. Insurrection is the other word.
Insurrection.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, insurrection.
So
All right.
recently this
Last
was
week. Week from
No,
today.
Oh.
actually, last year.
Well, 1
January
week ago,
6th.
year
January
ago.
6th.
Yeah.
Mhm.
1 week ago, a year ago.
Mhm.
So what happened was 11 people were charged with sedition over
Right.
the Capitol riots. And this was the Oath Keepers. And correct me if I'm wrong, but this was essentially like a mini milita group that was formed inside.
Okay.
Inside
And-
of the
Yeah,
Capitol
inside-
building?
No, this was just essentially when you go into the military, you can't take out any of your teachings or anything. Basically, you protect and defend the Constitution. And if you go against that, that's an entire thing of itself. And if you teach others, I believe that's like a federal charge.
Like military combat and
Sedition.
Sedition.
Mhm.
It is essentially
and-
sedition.
and
And that's
other
what they were charged on.
military
Right.
education that you get.
So these are all military people.
Prior military. Yep.
Correct.
That's not good.
So, interestingly enough, the word insurrection is used quite a bit by a lot of the mainstream media.
Mm.
And over the past year, out of all the people that were arrested, tried, convicted, fined, all the bad things that happened to all the people that were involved, none of those charges included
Sedition.
or
Insurrection.
insurrection.
So this is the first time.
But insurrection is
Yeah.
it's a very specific term, and yet it was never. Although it's being used quite a bit by the media, it was never charges levied against any individuals.
Mhm.
Oh, so people didn't. So it says that.
So how can you have an insurrection if
And
nobody's
nobody-
charged for insurrection?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a pretty.
Because the word insurrection means a violent uprising against an authority or government. So maybe they didn't technically. Because it says similar to a revolt,
Revolt.
and because they didn't take anything away from our government. They didn't do anything except for anything to
It was a
tear down
constitutional
government.
day.
Right. I think.
Oh, it was? It
It was
This
a
is-
constitutional day.
Yeah.
What does that mean, constitutional day?
So if I'm correct.
Go ahead.
Okay, so from my understanding, it was essentially inside the Constitution that this is mandatory. And if it happened on a different day with nobody present or any of that, it wouldn't have been in violation of the Constitution. Is that a generalized?
Well, so January 6th.
I'm missing some points.
Well, is the handover date, right?
Mm.
So that is what makes it such a pivotal date.
And the fact that it would happen on that
it's
day
the free handover of government from one
to another.
to another.
So essentially, that would be the people there would essentially, in terminology, be trying to upsert that.
Right.
And that would be in turn upserting the government.
Right. So, but I think this was just a bunch of, personally, I feel it was a bunch of good, well-meaning people that got in in a bad pickle.
Okay.
I think there were people that were in there that were intentionally doing bad things,
I mean, yeah,
and I don't
that's-
think they were part of the group. I think there was, I don't know.
I
my
mean, they still went
personal
onto federal
feeling.
property,
Yep.
and that's
Wrong,
already an act
wrong,
on
wrong, and
itself.
wrong. Everybody has denounced it. It's all wrong, and they should have never done it. But they did, and a lot of them are paying the penalty for it. The ones that
Yes.
were
Okay.
caused.
Actually, interesting enough, I heard some stories about that. There are people, you know how the FBI kind of watches over videos and kind of
Right.
analyzes.
Right.
So essentially, you know, the government, like, it's run by people. People can only do so much, right? So it was basically a group of, how would you phrase that? It was a group of people who also are not affiliated with the FBI or anything, but would analyze the videos and stuff and give that to the FBI for them
Analysts.
to analyze.
Yeah, the word is
Analysts.
analyst. Yeah.
I just don't know what it would be in that context. So essentially, they're doing their job, but
Right.
freelance, not even freelance.
Well,
They're not even being paid.
Yeah, you can be a volunteer
multiple
analyst.
groups.
Yeah, yeah. I think, I mean, look at Facebook. Did you ever put a cursor over pictures? You run your cursor over pictures on Facebook, and if there's people that are in your friends and family, their names will come up
Really?
just by running the cursor over those people. So, be it the face recognition software is just out there. It's almost ubiquitous. So it's not that difficult to run that stuff through the face recognition software and figure out who
because
these
some of
people
the
are.
videos were blurry and such, so they
Right.
had to do it by hand.
Right.
And they had to find people willing to give their own testimony saying this person was there.
Right. Got it. But even the blurry stuff you can clean up. They have software for that.
I think it can only do so much.
You'd be amazed.
Nah,
You can read a
nah,
license plate
no,
from space. You can figure it
no,
out.
I think it can only do so much.
Eh,
Anyways, interesting enough, you brought up Facebook.
yes.
So I heard some interesting takes
You
on
mean Meta?
the whole meta thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dexter, have you read anything about like virtual reality or books or anything, or even movies?
About virtual
VR,
reality?
yeah.
of
Okay,
course.
name a common trope.
Common what?
Common trope theme,
Of
like any movie or those.
VR?
Because you might hit on the one
Oh,
that I'm.
they're always
hinting
talking
to.
about how it's like
Think government.
like simulation kind of stuff. And
Okay, no, okay, Mr. Frank.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I heard an interesting take on it. So is essentially a meta is something in free space that anybody can add to anything. Essentially, you can do anything inside of it, right? Like
Meta-
if it's on virtual reality or something, you
Mhm.
can do that, right?
Right. It's
Okay.
like gene editing. Almost.
So
yeah, go ahead.
like gene editing. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, I heard an interesting take on it is like take any movie.
Mhm.
I forgot what the book was. They're all based off one certain book that started it all. And then you have movies such as like Ready Player One. What a common trope is a governmental power exerting control over that and trying to control the entire thing.
Mhm.
And I found some people saying it's a bit ironic that Facebook is trying to create a meta. Meanwhile, there's entire books and media portraying governmental control and company control over that as
Yeah.
wrong.
Yes.
Any
Right.
takes on that?
Right. It's kind of it's really predictive of a dystopian future.
It is.
Yes.
I just found that very interesting because I haven't heard that point even in the news before.
Hmm. I've been thinking a little bit about that, as you
Really?
can tell. Yes. Yeah. Let's go ahead. It's all right.
Really? Okay, Dexter, any thoughts on that?
So Meta is meant to be like the new Facebook, right? Or it's just
It's their new name.
Yeah.
Ish.
So I think it more accurately describes what they do. Based on they develop an algorithm based upon your use and what you do, what you like, what you don't like, and then they sell that information to free enterprise people that so that people that know that what kind of T-shirts you like to wear, what kind of blue jeans you like to wear, where you like to go to for ice cream, whatever it is. Metadata keeps track of all that, specific just to Dexter, and that's data that follows you, and you can add and subtract to that.
Like, for example, this is just something I heard.
And they sell that. That's you're actually a commodity that Facebook can market.
For example, one thing I heard was like the second you like get in a picture of somebody, you automatically have a profile in the system. They just don't know where you fit, but you're inside that system. And if you keep getting posted with, like, example, some random people, they'll find the pattern and then they'll associate you with them. And the second that your profile is created and they know it's you, it'll be associated with that. Interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, back to Meta. Any other takes on that?
Not really.
Not
Because
really.
I'm not super read up on it.
Okay. Well, I believe we're going to break.
We are indeed. So we'll take that as our time for a regulation timeout. And we'll be right back. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
And we're back to our regular station programming, I guess.
That's right. All right. Very good.
I
Good
actually
transition.
quickly had an idea.
Uh-oh. Okay,
Okay.
go
when,
ahead.
when we were talking about earlier on the air, we're talking about what's it called? Face recognition software, and how sometimes you're able to get past the cloudiness and restore videos and images.
Oh,
People,
yeah.
they
Okay.
can restore images very well. Thomas Edison created the first, I think, phonograph is what it's called, a voice recorder. And if you heard the very original version, you can't understand it. But there's been edited versions where they restore the sound from a object that predates our technology to make it sound very, very clear, which I thought was amazing because it was made in the late 1800s, and we're able to take our technology and clear up what they didn't have back then.
Right.
In terms of
all the
technology.
scratchiness, so that it remove all the ambient sounds that don't belong, and it's just a lot of AI, level software really to go in there and kind of clean it up, because it has to understand what it's listening to and what it doesn't need to hear, and then it could filter and clean it up. It's really very sophisticated.
It is interesting. And then you have other technologies, like even impersonation, because you have things like deepfakes.
How about the Barry Manilow is a good example. He actually, he's a songwriter.
Okay.
And he did some albums. He performs. He's a performer, right? Piano and such. But he can't carry a note. So his voice actually goes through a voice synthesizer, and it corrected his voice, so he would always sing on key.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So even somebody like me who cannot carry a tune in a bucket could theoretically sing a song complete from beginning to end flawlessly, because it's all computer enhanced. How cool is that?
That's pretty interesting.
Right? And that's 1980s technology.
That was 1980s.
Yeah. 1990s. Yeah. Yeah.
It really makes you appreciate how much talent people had before the technology.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Because how much talent there was to sound like they do now.
Right.
But 30 years before technology, more like maybe 10 years before it, 1980s, where you have like the 70s singers, the 60s.
Yeah.
50s, however far you want to go back.
Right.
Just the raw talent that people had.
Good
people still have, but it's hard to tell sometimes if it's all talent, or there's always going to be some auto-tuned or some other computer software that might be editing their voice. But before it was made, there's no possible way to.
Right. It was just audio in, audio out.
Maybe a little bit of just sound cleaning up, so where there's no background sound, but no actual voice editing.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, I'd say there's a couple hidden gems still, though. Question. Okay, so you talked a little bit about. Oh, sorry. I need to come a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked a little bit about something I was thinking a while ago, I guess. I was thinking of it ago, maybe a month or two. Anyways, one of the things I was thinking about was general things that our generation kind of is iffy about. One of the things is drive and determination, in my opinion. And you're talking about talent and general just going at it.
Okay.
Just generally is one of the things I would think is one of the problems within our own generation itself. Mr. Frank, do you have any?
So I want to understand your thought process. So you're saying that I want to get it clear in my mind. What are you saying exactly? That because people have certain skill sets, they're expected to do certain things, or
no,
or
okay.
they're not.
No,
they're
this
not
is actually kind of more of a different train of thought. Okay. So essentially, this is going to be a little bit weird. Okay, so essentially, you take the United States for example. You have like 80% middle class, like maybe a 10% higher class, and then you have like 5%. Like you have the rest of the 10%, and then you have the 5% within the 5%, and then you get the 1%, right? Okay, so if everybody has access or has a generalized access to most commodities like a grocery store or anything, they're not going out hunting or any of that, like traditional and just like way back when, right?
Right.
Okay, you have more time to yourself, right?
Okay.
Now take in mind COVID. Okay, what happens within COVID? You get more time to yourself.
Yeah.
What happens when you get more time to yourself?
Mm,
A lot of things happen.
A
Yeah.
lot of things can happen,
Mhm.
but
some
one of the
good,
things-
some bad.
some
Yeah.
things bad,
Right.
and some things good.
Right.
I'll focus more on the negative this time, but there are a lot of positive things, such
Right.
as like learning a new language, new talents, learning to cook, which most people don't do in the US.
Right. Some people have actually determined that it's better, easier for them to work at home. They
Mhm.
prefer to do that.
And some companies are actually turning over to it more.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But then some people just can't perform that way too. So yeah. So some people it's a negative.
Okay. And then after that, some negatives are just like if you're left alone too long, you develop self-doubt, you lose social skills, you lose all of
Depression
that.
got really bad during the lockdowns.
Depression got really bad, and
Suicide rates went up,
suicide
and drug
rates went up.
overdoses, and everything
Mhm.
negative to do with that got really bad.
household
Especially,
violence, everything.
especially during domestic violence, especially during the beginnings of lockdown when it was totally new,
Mm-hmm.
and there wasn't this like semi. You can stay at home.
can't
You
escape.
can go. Yeah, you could not leave. It was bad.
Okay, so now you have all of that. And then what my general one, just general take of our society is if we have everything already, say, like if I'm holding a phone in my hand, right? Okay, everybody has a phone. Nobody has a flip phone. Maybe if your parents are a bit strict, you might have like a flip phone or something. You might not have games or whatever. If you have access to everything, like a phone, the one that's in my hand can do practically anything. It can go into Chinese, Japanese, Hindi. It can go into everything, and it can retrieve text from all over the world, and it'll be at my fingertips. If I'm, this is just a general take. If a person has access to all of that, and they're kind of just generally not in it, that becomes kind of just like, oh, look at all of this. Just like, how do I phrase this? Kind of just like you get lost into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you already have everything, there is no need to achieve more. If that makes sense. This
Okay.
is just a general take.
All right.
Anything do you find wrong within our generation?
Yeah, because I mean this is
You have everything, but at the same
you don't-
time,
but it's
you
all
don't.
virtual, right? It's all
Yes.
virtual. It's not real.
And you don't own any of it.
True.
Yeah, you don't.
And I think for the human condition to succeed, the excitement of discovery, and sometimes when you're, for example, archaeology, that's hands and knees and digging and doing
There's some
stuff.
recent discoveries within that too. It's like
Yeah.
it was like a it was one of the biggest Ichthyosaurus. It's basically essentially a giant dolphin
Right.
that was
Yeah, I mean, it's
discovered.
amazing.
Ichthyosaur?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was the biggest one in recent time ever
Yeah.
discovered.
I love dinosaurs and all the archaeology stuff because I this game called Ark.
Oh yes, Ark. And there's
Ark
the Lost
Survival
Isles that
Evolved.
just came out too.
Yeah, it's so Ark Survival Evolved. It's take a survival game that takes place. The main island, it's called the island, is just like a forest map, but you include dinosaurs from all different eras, all different time frames, and it's funny because when you play a game like that, when you're constantly surrounded by knowledge, like for example, the names of different dinosaurs, you start to learn the names passively as you encounter them and as you work with them. I learned all of the names of all the dinosaurs, how they looked within like a few weeks just from playing that game. That's how I knew the ichthyosaur because it's like a underwater dolphin creature. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back to you.
Back to me.
Uh,
Back to me. Well, back to you, John. So we're going to
Head to break.
we are going to do just that. So we're
Mm.
gonna let Rocky and
And
Bull
now-
go.
Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
And we're back from our
You-
break.
We are
Hello.
indeed. All right. Anybody know who Alec Baldwin is?
Yes.
I've heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was suing the supplier, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're right. He is not him personally. I think
Armorer?
the armorer.
Yep.
That worked on the set with him on was it a movie series called Rust?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a Western series called Rust, and he's a principal in the series. And so as the understanding goes, the armorer did not know that the ammunition supplier had mixed live rounds in with the dummy rounds that they were supposed to be using. What can go wrong? Well, somebody can die, and that's what went wrong. And and I guess authorities have been after Mr. Baldwin to make his cell phone available. Why? I'm not too sure, but he finally has agreed to hand over his cell phone to authorities this week. So I guess it'll happen today or tomorrow. Week's nearly over. But yeah, that should be. So that's what his Alec Baldwin's lawyer says about that. So what they're looking for in that, I don't know, but they suspect something. Who he was on the phone
he
right
knew
away. Right.
What happened?
Yeah.
Why? Okay. That'll be interesting.
Yeah. So very sad story.
It
Very
is.
sad story. But anyways. Yeah. Oof.
So while we were on break, John,
Oh, yeah. We were talking about a skyscraper.
Okay.
Okay. So the skyscraper is about 58 stories tall. And for those of us living in Jensen, basically imagine any building here in times it by 100 in height. And that's essentially what you got.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And essentially, guess what happened? So what happened
it fell
is it
down?
no, not okay, I hope not.
Okay.
Anyways, every year it's been recorded that it leans 3 inches. Keep in mind, this is 58 stories in the middle of New York, San Francisco. I'm sorry. And it's leaning to the north and west.
Yes. This is the
Millennium Tower.
Millennial Tower.
what started it to lean? Just infrastructure damage, or
it's
like a
the
hill?
Not enough foundation is my guess.
So the thing is, of course, there was the Great San Francisco earthquake.
Yes.
California has the most robust standards for construction. They actually designed the buildings to be able to move during an earthquake
because they're
and
on
survive.
the fault line. They're on, is it the San Andreas fault line, right?
Well,
or that's something else.
There's several fault lines that run
Either way,
California.
It's really scary looking when you look at a map of all the tectonic plates. Their entire border is a fault line.
Yes.
So any shift in plates, the whole coast will feel it, and the whole
that.
state of California will feel the earthquakes.
Yes. Yeah, it's pretty ugly. It has potential for being ugly. I used to live in Fresno, and I remember driving up to Sacramento from Fresno, and on the highway there, and so they put the highway real close to where the fault. You can actually see the fault, which is interesting. But what I thought was the most fascinating. Guess where the emergency response stations are?
Oh
On the fault
really?
line. Yeah, because it's the cheapest land, right? And it's very.
Oh, because it's scary to be by that.
No, well, nobody's going to do construction there, so so they put state buildings there. But I just looked at that and I go, well, that's interesting. I wonder if they'll be answering that 911 call if that comes through.
Oh my.
So, yeah. Anyways, I thought that was kind of strange, but yeah. So you were going about the Millennial Tower.
Okay.
So I have no idea why, other than the earth underneath is just weakened at that just sufficiently for it to allow it to lean. It reminds me a little bit about Pisa.
Oh yeah, it is essentially becoming a leaning tower of Pisa.
But they were able to stabilize the Leaning Tower of Pisa
For now.
Yeah,
For now.
it took many millions of dollars, but they were able to bring it to a safe lean. They kept it because it's obviously a big
About
tourist attraction.
6 degrees.
I was thinking, yeah, somewhere around there. Very,
Yeah.
very and there's no worry of it falling right now because it
physically
physically it
can't.
cannot fall over.
Right.
It's I
It's
forget
been reinforced.
I forget how the physics works, but its center of gravity it's not tipped far over enough where the gravity from the weight of the top can pull itself over and fall.
Yeah.
The gravity pulls if you draw a straight line from the highest peak of it, which would be like like on the side of it,
Mm-hmm.
highest peak. If you draw a straight line through the ground or through the building, it doesn't go over the base, so it stays within its own base. So the Leaning Tower piece cannot fall over right now, but it took a lot of construction, a lot of reinforcements to keep it that way. And when you have something that I believe is much bigger than the Leaning Tower Pisa,
Mhm.
the skyscraper, that's going to be a
A
It's
monumental.
Big job.
$350 million is being sunk into it.
Yeah, literally.
you got to keep your
Probably in cement.
people safe. Are they going to put it back to normal or keep
no,
it?
that was the initial cost to build it.
Yeah.
So the cost to fix it is $100 million, and that was announced in October, after years of lawsuits and hearings.
Are they going to restore it to 0 degrees incline or keep it at an incline?
I don't know if they can ever right the building. I
don't think they can.
They have to just
Like, I think they can tilt it a little bit, but I don't think they can
they
completely
have to
right
just
it.
keep it
Yeah.
reinforced.
Yeah.
Like just put a bunch of steel
Yeah.
reinforcements.
They'll have
Reinforce
to
the
find
foundation.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? You got to take apart everything, do so meticulously because you can't just take everything off or it's going to fall, and it has
Right.
to still be in use.
Right. Yeah.
Which is sometimes how I wonder how they maintain big bridges.
Mm.
It's got to be used, but if it's damaged, how do you work on it? You can't pull it back together, or it's amazing how people work on these giant construction
Right. Well, look at our
projects.
Roosevelt Bridge here. That was an interesting.
Had a huge crack in it.
Oh
Yes.
my.
Yes.
Yes.
That was, and I understand they actually ended up using the what is that stronger than steel
Carbon fiber.
carbon fiber
Oh, yeah.
material.
That is very expensive
Yes.
material, but
That's the
it's
reason
amazing.
why. That's why Elon Musk didn't use it on SpaceX
Why?
because it's too expensive. Yeah.
Even for him, yeah.
Yeah. Well, he you can use the 304 stainless steel, and it actually gave him more benefits of what he was looking for.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
sure about its melting point, boiling point, but it's very strong.
Very strong, superior to
Super lightweight
right,
compared to steel and stuff.
right. So the other stuff's super lightweight, and it gives you good strength to steel, but steel was superior in heat and cold
That's
tolerance
what I was saying.
and all that.
Carbon fiber doesn't sound like it will conduct much electricity or much heat.
Right.
Because there's no metal in it
Right.
to conduct heat.
Yeah.
I'm actually learning about this right now in chemistry. John,
Mhm.
you're not in chemistry,
No,
but
I'm a bio kid.
well, in physics, not physics, in chemistry right now, we're learning about conductivity a little bit. We're not totally in the energy portion of our course yet,
Mhm.
but we're talking about bonds and different bond structures and carbon. We've got into metallic bonds,
Mhm.
and then alloys. So alloys like steel's an alloy. Steel's not naturally occurring.
Correct.
It's
Mhm.
iron mixed with carbon,
Right.
which is odd for an alloy because it's not two metals mixed together. Like brass, I think is copper and tin,
Mhm.
Yes.
something along those lines.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which is brass, right?
Right.
It's two metals. I don't know. They're not really bonded together, but they're kind of just mushed together.
Well, they're melted. Mhm.
Yeah.
They're
Solidified, I guess.
they're
I don't think they're technically
Mixed.
bonded.
Yeah.
They're more mixed than they are.
Yeah.
They're not really bonded together. But in alloys, by definition, they're stronger usually, or most likely they are stronger, and they're lighter weight because there's more gaps between the atoms. And and we also learned that carbon makes the strongest compounds. Strong carbon is what diamond is. right? So
Mhm.
that's what makes it so strong is its ability to bond with so many different to bond. It can make 4 bonds, and diamond's just a bunch of carbon bonded together.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It really is an amazing structure.
Mhm.
And then with carbon fiber, I believe that's also just carbon. I could be wrong. I don't know how.
It is carbon. Mhm.
And it's used in supercars, hypercars to keep it lightweight and strong.
Mhm.
But with steel, but then of course, since it's on a metal, you lose the heat conductivity and the electrical conductivity, like in steel, because you're going to be going through the atmosphere. It's going to get hot,
Yeah. And then you need more insulation.
but there's no insulation with carbon stuff. Yeah.
Right. So you need more insulation because it doesn't have the heat tolerance of steel. So and so then the weight savings that you had, you lose by adding on the insulation. So it's like,
Yeah,
you know, why
steel is its
why are
own-
we doing this? So
Yeah.
yeah. So that's interesting how that whole evolution of decision making, because he actually began making his new SpaceX rockets with the notion he was going to go with carbon fiber, because everybody says, "Oh, that's what you got to do," and he goes, I don't know. He said he started looking at it and started looking at the cost and knowing full well he's going to be blowing up quite a few during the testing process. And so, and you know, nice thing about steel is it's totally recyclable. So
Because the rockets have to be fully reusable. Yeah.
reusable too. But anything that does anything that breaks, they just melt it and recycle it and use it again. So,
But with
Yeah.
carbon, that would break, and you can't refurbish carbon fiber. I'm pretty sure. I don't
Yeah.
think you can. Once it's broken, it's totaled.
right.
Because there's also without having metal in it, there's no malleability with carbon, with carbon fiber and stuff like that. Because with metals, it's how they forge
If it's
stuff.
hit, it's broken.
Yeah, if it's broken, it's broken. The structure is broken. But with
It's
metals,
usually one way too. So if you go against its grain, it'll immediately crack.
yeah. But with metal and alloys, you have that malleability. Melt it, like with how they make blades and swords. They just melt it high temperature, cool down, and it's back together again.
So I got a research project for you talking about that blades, and look up Damascus steel.
Damascus is
Do you know
I've
what
heard
that
of it.
is?
Is this the iron ones that had the ionic structures that nobody can find out how it functions?
It has a unique appearance to
It's
it.
constant.
It looks
No,
different
okay.
than
You make
regular
it
steel.
by constantly
Super
folding,
hard.
right? You make it by constantly folding.
No, I
steel.
think it's an acid bath process. It's a special process, and also
Interesting.
probably the mixing and the folding.
And it makes all these cool lines, right?
Yeah. It's really cool. Damascus steel is very cool stuff.
Well, we'll be
For
here
centuries, they
next
had
week.
no idea how they made it.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be here next week.
We'll be here. It won't take a century for you to find us, right? Okay.
Nah.
All right.
See you next week.
All righty.
Damascus